Aloha and welcome to the video. So in this video I'm going to be doing something just a little bit different. I'm going to be making two Hawaiian style daggers. One of them is going to be made out of a marlin bill. This is a striper, a smaller marlin bill. And then the flat one you see there, that's a broken piece of a swordfish bill. Now what I'm going to be doing a little bit different this video is most of my pieces I do test, but I don't test them to failure. But I've gotten a lot of comments recently, a lot of people asking like how tough is the joint, for example, the joint between the marlin bill and the coal wood, or the joint between the swordfish bill and the coal wood when I make a piece. How strong is it? How strong is the natural materials? And I have tested a lot of these pieces before, and they are pretty tough, and so I have a general idea of how strong it's going to be, but I thought it would be fun to make some simple pieces and stress test them to failure. Now I might not break both of them, but I'm definitely going to be stress testing at least one of them to failure. Now I won't be testing both of them the same way. The marlin bill one is going to be more like a stiletto. It's a stabbing style piece. If you tried to slash with it, it wouldn't really cut, and it would definitely break the marlin bill. Marlin bills are really tough, but a live marlin, the fish, it's like bone. Bone material is really tough. It's flexible, but once you dry it out, it's still strong. It's hard. It loses a lot of its flexibility, and so if you try to stress it too much, it'll snap. The marlin bills are the exact same way. Now, one thing I am doing that's a little bit different with these pieces is I'm not using any glue at all. And so what you see me doing here is I'm wedging into place. So I definitely am making the joints as tight as I can, but any gapping I'm wedging with small pieces of coal wood and then cross pegging, and then I'm going to lash. And so both of these pieces are going to be fully mechanically held together. The idea behind that is I wanted to make pieces that would have been more reflective of traditional pieces. So I didn't want them to have any type of epoxy or modern glues. I wanted them to be a little bit more what would have been found in ancient Hawaii and other Polynesian islands. Now obviously I'm using modern tools, so I'm not recreating these the same way that they recreated them. I just wanted the testing of it to be a little bit more similar to what I think would be realistic. And the style of lash that I'm doing here is just a pull through knot. So I wrap it around, I knot it a couple times while I'm going through just to lock it into place. And then there's that loop that I can pull through, and then I tie a knot on that end, and the loop hooks onto the knot, and everything becomes nice and snug. So this is a marlin bill, a coal wood handle. It's pegged, lashed, and then had that tongue and groove joint. And you can see here I'm stress testing it just with my hands, my thumbs, and it's on there pretty solid. So the next piece here is going to be, it's kind of like a chopper actually, like a knife, a blade, a chopper. And so I'm using this broken swordfish bill that I had, and I'm going to be putting it insetting it into this coal wood. So this is also kind of a tongue and groove joint, but I'm going to be making that inset very, very, very close. I am going to be thinning this down just a little bit because the swordfish bills aren't flat. They're kind of a diamond shape. So if you looked at them from a cross-sectional view, they come to a high point at the ridge in the center, and then they taper down to the edges. It's kind of not easy to make a tongue and groove joint for that, so I'm flattening the ridges down so that I can have a nice flat section. I'm a little bit worried though, because this swordfish bill I have is kind of on the smaller size. If I had a thicker, larger piece, I think it'd be a lot stronger. This one's a little bit small, and so I'm not totally confident on this one. I think it is going to snap, but I don't know where. Now, just like the other dagger, I'm going to be using the tongue and groove joint. It's going to have cross pegs. Now this one will have two, and then it's going to be lashed. I'm a little bit worried that drilling the holes for the cross pegs might put weak spots in the bill, so there's a chance it'll break there. But I'm hoping with the coal wood that goes around that'll support it, and then with the lash that will give the wood support, so it should have a pretty solid, strong joint. And then I'm just sanding. I sanded both pieces down to 320 grit. Probably didn't need to take it past 220, but they did oil up really nice, and so I wanted to go ahead and sand that down. Now the handle in here had a beautiful two-tone coil wood. It's a really light grain mixed with really dark grain, and I thought that was awesome. Unfortunately, 50, maybe 60% of that handle is going to be covered in a wrap, so you won't see it, but it did look kind of cool. I ended up messing up on the wrap, and I had to redo the whole thing, which was kind of a pain in the butt. Sometimes that happens. I didn't lose too much time on it, maybe 40 minutes to an hour, but at the end of the day, I needed to go back and redo it, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to get a nice solid tight wrap where I can clean it up like this. So I like the wrap. I like being able to hide the knots on both sides, so it almost looks like it's just a clean wrap all the way around and you can't see where it starts and where it ends. I did on the handle, on the blade, I gave it a lanyard, just because it'd be used for slicing motions, whereas the stabbing style dagger has the wrap already where the joint is, and it gives quite a bit of friction, and so it's easy to hold on to, and it's more of a stabbing type dagger. Anyway, I thought it'd be just a little bit more authentic if I had a wrap on this one. Again, it's just kind of a smaller piece. I think it would have been a little bit stronger with a larger piece. So how I decided to test them is I got a pineapple, which is pretty tough, but not super tough. Comparatively speaking, it's tougher than other fruits, but still a lot softer. And then I'm going to be going on, I have a couple of squash. One's kind of like a medium hardness, and then the other one's really hard. And it's just kind of going to be my analog for testing. I figure if it can easily damage those, then it should be able to do a lot more. And the final test, if my piece survives, I'll whack at probably a wooden dowel just to see if I can cut through that. But this actually was cutting really well on the pineapple. It ended up slicing the top off. I was able to actually just gouge into this, and then when I did that, I went ahead and just sawed through it, and then I accidentally cut my finger on the edge. I don't think it cut because it was necessarily sharp. I think it probably just had some micro burrs that just sawed my finger open, which is a small cut though, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But it did cut all the way through, which was awesome. So here's the next piece. Now this is, I forget what type of squash this is, but it's got a harder shell, a lot harder than the pineapple. The dagger just stabs right through. The dagger was having no issues at all. I was really actually happy though that the joint was holding extremely strong. I didn't try any slashing motions with the dagger, so you can see here I kind of just tapped it, but I know it's not going to do anything except for potentially break. It's not meant for that type of stress. The swordfish bill, however, I was fully expecting it to snap on this hit, and it just cut almost 50% through, which was awesome. And then I did a slicing hit here, which pretty much cut it into thirds because it was already cut through halfway. The next test was with this one. This one I was pretty confident was going to break, if not one, both of them. Now this first strike gave me confidence because I thought it broke the blade, the swordfish bill, but it just cut that section off. So then I went for this strike here, which was a strike straight to the body, and as you can see, it just straight up exploded in my hand. It didn't break where I was expecting it to break though. It broke the transition between the handle and the rest of the blade. I expected it to break somewhere in the blade or in the handle material, but it broke on the transition. So there's definitely a stress point there that probably as a result of me flattening it. And then obviously I tested with the marlin bill, but I didn't expect this to have any damage. It's pretty tough, and it stabbed right through. In fact, it went all the way through the piece on a couple of the strikes, which is pretty impressive because it's a pretty solid exterior on this. This would definitely be a deep stabbing wound if you were to stab into someone with this style of dagger. I mean, look at that. It goes all the way through that piece there. Now, what I ended up doing at the end, just for a little bit more fun, because I had already damaged the slashing style pahoa, the dagger. I guess it's less of a dagger. It's more of a knife, like a machete almost. Is I decided to try to see if it would cut into wood. It was kind of hard to hold on to because the edge is sharp all the way down, and so holding it was kind of painful. But you can see it actually kind of like hacked away, almost like an adze, the ancient chisels, but it worked surprisingly well, and it didn't do too much damage to the bill. I took off quite a bit of material off of that piece. I was kind of impressed. It did chunk a little bit off the bill, but for the most part, it was able to cut right into it. All in all, this build was a ton of fun. I really enjoyed testing these. If you liked it, go ahead and leave me a like and subscribe. Leave me comments below. I love reading the comments. If you have any suggestions on some new pieces, I have a lot of fun stuff coming that I'm super excited for. Well, mahalo everyone that watches, and I'll see you next time. Aloha.